Hey guys, Makado's here, and today we're going to be theorizing and explaining the second episode of the forest horror called The Missing 411. We're going to explain or spoil the whole stories, deep dive into a hidden detail, and we're going to theorizing of what is actually happening. Enjoy the video. The scenes start up during the storm time on Sodor. All the trains and ships have been halted, and all the engines are staying at the sheds. Some engines are very worried or very sad, while some are very frustrated about the storm, because the storm caused a lot of trouble on the railway. The scenes will then go on and on to the engines at the sheds until we found a ships. Not just any like fishing boats or container ships, but it's a warship, a battleship. This is the first time that we saw a warship on the island of Sodor, and that really means that something is ain't right up on Sodor. The scenes then go on and on about the storms and the engine sheds until we saw that there's a trees fallen on the line in Henry's forest. And after that, we then saw the engines at the Titmouth sheds with the Topham hats. He explained that the storm from last night caused a lot of trouble on the railway, and it was in a lot of mess, so the regular train had to be cancelled or halted. He then assigned some of his engines to go and restore the line. Thomas go and clean the mess at Farquhar and Elsbridge. Gordon, Henry, and Edward will go and clean at Henry's forest. Of course, Gordon didn't like the news that he had to go and work there. But Sir Topham had explained that also caused a lot of mess on the main line, and it was dangerous for Gordon to go at such high speed. He also reminded Gordon of one time he ran through the branch line that was really not well maintained at 70 miles per hour, because he don't want any other trouble from Gordon, so Gordon had to accept the assign that he was given. And so the work assigned continued. James at the viaduct, Percy at the Dry R airbase. Wait, hold on. Dry R airbase? Since when did Sodor have an airbase? Sodor is just a small island near the British Isle, and it was also peaceful. It don't need an airbase. The only necessary time that Sodor needed an airbase is during the war, like World War I and World War II. Unless there is something going on Sodor, like how I said in the beginning that why do Sodor needed a warship. Toby helping Mavis at the Norfolk Quarry, and Emily landslide on the Kirk Ronan branch. After that, Sir Topham left.
I hate the thoughts of my favorite line being in ruins.
Don't worry, Henry. Soon we will have the forest looking good as new.
The work on cleaning on Henry's forest began with Harvey and Trevor helping the engines. And while they're doing, Gordon began to complain. As usual, being typical Gordon, he complained to Edward that why hasn't the storm stopped yet. Edward had reassured Gordon that the storm and the rain would stop soon. With that, he could finally take the express. And Gordon just hoped that what Edward said is right. The works continue on with the scenes changing to the different engine that were storing on the specific line. And this is where we saw the airbase for the first time. And it seemed it was the same place where Percy and the Harrow met. We still see the same E2 Hawkeye that flown over Henry on the last episode, and 2 AV-8 Harrier jump jet. Now the base, what I like to call used to main job, is to save people from the danger. But since the military started to get involved, it was more than just a small helping people. Gordon had finally delivered the last supply for the works, and was looking forward to go back to the main sheds. But the workmen want Gordon to do another thing. He wants Gordon to put those trucks up ahead of him on the siding down the old line. And that is the job well done. And Gordon did what the workmen told him to. Gordon shoved all of the trucks into the abandoned sidings on the abandoned line. But then he saw that there is another abandoned line that leads to seemingly a forest or a field. Gordon was curious, so he decided to take a look. And when he was out from the bushes, he found there was a shed. Gordon also took a liking into it. Not only that it was a good place to make him avoid the rain, but also a nice place that was close to the Henry's forest, because traveling from Titmouth sheds all the way to Henry's forest was a really long distance. And since the sheds was not in a shabby look, he decided that he would share the sheds with another engines. But as Gordon's is almost out of the sights, was already enough to not let Gordon see, the camera panned to the sidings. The sidings only had one platform, one tankers, and one trucks. But another one is not a trucks. Back at the shed, Gordon made a conversation about his discovery that day. Edwards finds that it looks interesting, but he suggests Gordon that he should stay at the Titmuth sheds because the branch line had been rust and left abandoned for many years, and it might can't hold Gordon's weight. Gordon resists Edwards' suggestion, saying that he'd rather stay in the sheds on the abandoned line instead of getting soaked by rain while idling. Edwards is still concerned about Gordon's choice, because if the storm hit, that could be a problem. But Gordon stated,
By the time another storm hits, this job will be long finished, and my berth waiting for me here.
and so works on restoring the line continue. Oliver had just
Hello,
delivered
lads.
the
How are
equipment and
you
supply for the
We
restoration.
cleared the majority
He asked how
of the
the progress
debris
was
around the
going.
line and
Edwards
sidings,
stated that
but
the
the
majority
large
of the
tree
line had been
blocking the
finished,
line is
but
too
there's
big
still a
for
big
us to
tree blocking the
move.
lines.
We are
so they're
going to
to
need
meet
Rocky.
Edwards asked Oliver what he was doing on the Henry's Forest. Oliver stated that he was at Netford Station when the storm hit, and the storm has swept away a lot of lines on the Little Western. So Topham decided to give Oliver another job by delivering goods and supply for the engines to restore the line. But it seems that there had been a change of plan because one of the workmen then called 3 engines of what's happening. And somehow, the storm from last time decided to come back. And he needed all these engines to move all the trucks back to the sidings. And by sidings, I mean the one that Gordon just did from yesterday. Okay, I want to give an education on this part because how the hell did the storm able to come back from the last time it did? Ain't no way that any storm could do that. All it did is visit and then left. The earth is round and the storms only move on one direction. How the hell did it able to turn around and destroy everything on the second time? Unless it was not by nature. Anyway, on the next scene we saw it was just shunt the trains onto the abandoned line. He then seemed to go on the line where Gordon's found sheds. Later we found out that Gordon just made a suggestion for Oliver to stay in the sheds on the abandoned line with him. Oliver's agreed, but Edward's still skeptic about Gordon's decision. But Gordon assured Edward that it could hold the storm from last time, and why not this time? So Edward just allowed them. He just left them with a warning. The storm did hit Sodor, and Edwards had finally reached Wellsworth. Hank also there and surprised to see him. Edwards explained of what happened. He is with Gordon and Oliver. Hank asks where they are. Edwards answered that they were in an abandoned line on the abandoned sheds where Gordon found. Hank stated that he wouldn't be in that place on this situation, saying strange things happen. Edwards asked what he's on about. Hank said it was nothing and some kind of superstitious. Edward also asked Hank that why he's still on Sodor. Hank answered that the ship had been delayed because of the storm. So in the meantime, Topham had decided to give Hank another job before he left. Edward then suggests Hank that they should go to sleep because it's already late. Hank agreed, and they did. But when the scenes cut to where they did go to sleep, the camera started to pan away from them to the behind one of the vans until we saw this. The next day, Edward and Henry bring Rockies to Henry's forest to go and lift the big tree that was falling on the line.
What the dog doing?
What is he doing back there? They finally get to the place where they should be, but there's also other thing that they should be there too, and that is Gordon and Oliver. Henry said to Edward that he would do the job, and while Edwards go find them.
Sure thing.
He then arrived at the place where Oliver and Gordon should be, but what it shouldn't be is when after Edwards came to where the sheds is, all they find is nothing. Edward started to get worried and decided to go look for them. He started off by calling up their names, but there's nothing. Until... Pause. Okay, all I want to point out is something is wrong with Oliver. I mean, why is he smiling while running? There's clearly something wrong with him.
Oliver, wait!
And so, an exciting chase began between Oliver that was possessed and Edwards catching him up.
Edward, slow down!
Edwards then finally stopped and was so exhausting. But when he looked up, he then saw a giant rock blocking him.
Scrap me! That was close.
What on earth was that?
I'm not sure.
Let's head back. We can figure this out from there.
Both him and his crews are really confused. But yet again, when the main character finally gone from the scene, the cameras pan. And what it left us is a familiar sight. The scenes changed to all the engine in the Timoth sheds as well as the Topham, except for Gordon. He then announced that Gordon and Oliver had been missing. The operation had gone well and everything resumed back to normal, except that Gordon and Oliver is missing, so he needed an engine to fill the gap for Gordon and Oliver. Thomas asked the Fat Controller if he is going to give up on them, but the Topham reassured Thomas that he will not, and the search will continue on. He then left for his car, but before he could get in, James asked if there is any progress on Gordon and Oliver, but all he could reply is,
Not a trace.
After the Topham left, James began to question of how on earth that two engines could be disappeared at the same time. Edwards do not know that how it was possible. Henry is still convinced that both Gordon and Oliver are still out there, and he asks Edward that he did saw Oliver. Edward did confirm. But James thought it was a hogwash idea, but then Edward retorted that the engine could not run through a boulder. Then a long silence happened. Percy then started to get uneasy, so Thomas and Percy decided to go find other sheds, and so did James.
I know what I saw. I don't know what I witnessed.
The scenes then cut to the next day, with Edward still questioning what just happened.
Just what could be going on.
Hank then arrived at Wellswood and Edward asks Hank then why he's still on Sodor. Hank answered that the ship will leave this afternoon. Edward understand why, and so did Hank. He then said to Edward that he will hear a new whistle soon, which is something that he did not get used to back in the United States. Edward asked why. Hank answered that back when he was working in Oregon, some hikers and engine gone without a trace.
Eventually, they just started calling it the missing 411.
He asked Hank what they should do, and he said,
Stay out of the forest.
and with that, Edward thought that he should sleep at Brenham tonight. And he did. And the engine that waiting him in the sheds is Philip, for some reason. Philip was very excited, and he wanted to do a lot of things with Edwards. But Edward said that he was really tired and just wants some sleep, so Philip had to let him. But then, at night, while Edward is sleeping, he then have a really weird dreams. The location where he's at, it seems to be the place where Thomas fell into the mine. And a lot of shenanigans things happen. But for this one, I think I'll let the video play for you.
Gordon? Oliver?
Hello, old friend.
You know, I think it is pretty clear now what happened, but we still have a lot to catch up.
We are waiting for you.
What do you mean?
We will be waiting for you where hard things are unearthed and heavy things are retrieved.
Edward then wake up for sound of metal straining. He then looked up to see what the sound came from. Both of his crews also heard that too. And when he looked up, he then shocked of what he saw. And as well as his crew. There, coming out from the yards, is Gordon. And it seems that it was not the same Gordon that we knew. Because his face is all blank. His teeth, his eyes, even he's missing an eyebrow. Classic. It seems that lady did something to Gordon. And from what Edward's dream, there might be something sinister behind it. Edwards and his crew decided to follow Gordon. What the heck is Diesel 10 doing again? Edwards then followed Gordon all the way to the place where he's dream of. Okay, I hate to repeat the name now. And when he reached where Gordon's is, he then saw a scene that made him go, what the fuck? Gordon magically lifted from the pit where Thomas fell. And if that wasn't fucked up enough, Oliver just came out. And he is in a scrap look. And both entered a tunnel where the light came out. And it disappeared. Edward, excuse my language from earlier and now, is just, what the fuck? And then, lights came out from the tunnel.
We are not staying here.
Dear Lord, you are our shepherd and defender. Please deliver us home safely.
I'll switch the tracks into the runaway ditch. You put up a cross on the railway tracks.
The scenes then cuts to the daytime. Thomas was taking Annie and Clarabelle and some trucks. This is clearly to be a mixed train. Thomas then noticed something familiar. The mines where he ran into the pit. It seems to be all torn up now.
Wasn't that where the old lead mine used to be? Must have closed down, I suppose.
The mine had finally closed after Thomas' incident. The rails are torn up and the fence was put on the side. The camera then traveled deeper. Then we found the crossing. We don't know why the fence is there, as well why is the rails are torn up. But then the camera panned to see the same lorries and Caroline. With all the scenes that we have seen from the last and this episodes, it all makes sense. These lorries are for the military. And they came to Sodor because there is some mysterious paranormal activity happening on Sodor. And I am able to gather up a lot of theories about this. The UFO and the ladies. I have a feeling that the UFO or the aliens are controlling ladies, or ladies is the alien herself and was trying to do something by taking engines and others. Credits started to roll and we see that there is these CCTV cameras on the mine. The camera started to get darker and darker, signifying the time. I tried to brighten the scenes up, but it was no use. It was too dark, and the CCTV vision is just not a good quality. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I will be doing a third one. We're able to gather some information up on this one, but there's a lot more to it, so stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if I miss anything, please comment down below. Have a good one.